Hello and welcome, everyone. Oof. Today, at the Forge for Christ, it will be about a what do you call it? Rap rhyming poem. That's the word. A poem called Jesus versus Religion, and talking about it plus going into Bible verses with it. Michael.
Yeah, thank you. So, first off, I want to say that this particular poem, which was written by Jefferson Bethke, who's a known preacher, uh, over a decade ago, um, the poem in itself changed my life and how I viewed Christianity completely because up until then, I had only heard about it um, the typical way, so to say. So, how we're gonna do this is first I'm gonna read the whole poem, uh, and then afterwards we're gonna go through it with the Bible references and some other references in the poem to also represent basically how life is. And I'm sorry if we seem a little slow.
We just snapped.
Yeah, so bear with us.
Bear with us. You have not been put on hold.
No. Okay, let's go. What if I told you Jesus came to abolish religion? What if I told you voting Republican really wasn't his mission? What if I told you Republican doesn't automatically mean Christian, and just because you call some people blind doesn't automatically give you vision? I mean, if religion is so great, why has it started so many wars? Why does it build huge churches but fails to feed the poor? Tell single moms God doesn't love them if they've ever had a divorce, but in the Old Testament, God actually called religious people whores. Religion might preach grace, but another thing they practice. Since ridicule God's people, they did it to John the Baptist. They can't fix their problems, and so they just mask it, not realizing religion's like spraying perfume on a casket. See, the problem with religion is it never gets to the core. It's just behavior modifications like along the chores. Like, let's dress up the outside, make it look nice and neat. But it's funny, that's what they used to do to mummies while the corpse rots underneath. Now, I ain't judging, I'm just saying, quit putting on a fake look. Because there's a problem if people only know that you're a Christian by your Facebook. I mean, in every other aspect of life, you know the logic's unworthy. It's like saying you play for the Lakers just because you bought a jersey. You see, this was me too, but no one seemed to be onto me, acting like a church kid while addicted to pornography. See, on Sunday I go to church, but Saturday getting faded, acting if I was simply created to just have sex and get wasted. See, I spent my whole life building this facade of neatness, but now that I know Jesus, I boast in my weakness. Because if grace is water, then the church should be an ocean. It's not a museum for good people, it's a hospital for the broken. Which means I don't have to hide my failure, I don't have to hide my sin, because it doesn't depend on me, it depends on Him. See, because when I was God's enemy, and certainly not a fan, He looked down and said, I want that man. Which is why Jesus hated religion, and for it, He called them fools. Don't you see it's so much better than just following some rules? Now let me clarify. I love the church, I love the Bible, and yes, I believe in sin. But if Jesus came to your church, would they actually let Him in? See, remember He was called a glutton and a drunken by religious men. But the Son of God never supported self-righteousness, not now, not then. Now back to the point, one thing is vital to mention, how Jesus and religion are on opposite spectrums. See, one is the work of God, but one is a man-made invention. She wants the cure, but others the infection. See, because religion says do, Jesus says done. Religion says slave, Jesus says son. Religion puts you in bondage, while Jesus sets you free. Religion makes you blind, but Jesus makes you see. And that's why religion and Jesus, are two different clans. Religion is man searching for God. Christianity is God searching for man, which is why salvation is freely mine and forgiveness is my own, not based on my merits, but Jesus' obedience alone. Because he took the crown of thorns and the blood dripped down his face. He took what we all deserve. Guess that's why you call it grace. And while being murdered, he yelled, "Father, forgive them, they know not what they do." Because when he was dangling on the cross, he was thinking of you. And he absorbed all our sins and buried in the tomb, which is why kneeling at the cross says, "Come on, there's room." So for religion, I hate it. In fact, I literally resent it. Because when Jesus says, "It is finished," I believed he meant it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, and I hope, as you also can tell, the more I actually got into it, the more I actually,
Yeah,
because even though I haven't read this poem in so many years, but the more I read it, the easier it was for me to read it because it just hits so hard.
oh, nice. For me also, when Michael was reading it, like he said, we have not listened to this poem in a long time, but since the very first time we heard it, it hit us so much that we basically went around and listened to it almost non-stop, which is also why we can a lot of verses very well in that. But also for me now, like Michael said, it's over 10 years ago this came out. Then not just that hit, but how much that what he's explaining I see in my personal life, in my everyday life, surrounding me with all sorts and that and how all the things he's putting into perspective of how we do as humans and how we are as humans. Like I said in the previous, there's the spiritual version of us, and then our souls and that, and then there's the human version of it. And how much when I hear this, I'm just like, there's so much human in this. We need the godly. We need the spiritual.
Yeah. So for the people who's going to be watching this on TikTok, if you look at my page, the second video I have pinned is actually this poem because I believe it's so important, which is also why for years now, whenever people say, "Oh, you follow Christian religion," no, I despise religion. I have faith because, as stated here, religion is a man-made invention, but being a Christian, having the faith, that's between me and God, which is why we say also that me and Mariana, we don't have the same faith. How could we? We have two independent relationships with God. Yes, our foundation is based on the exact same thing, obviously, but how we practice it, what we learn, how we feel it, is completely different.
And I can also tell that with the other people that I met, the other people that I surround myself with, because others that are Christians like me and that has that faith in that, but at the same time, the way they talk about it, the way they are with the thing, the way their mind is to the spiritual compared to the physical worldly, it's very different. They believe in God, they believe in Jesus, they pray that, but some of them don't see the things that I see, or they don't, what do you call it? They don't
Interpret.
interpret the different verses in the Bible the way I do, so things come out very, very differently. And then I like to put in a fast, you could call it disclaimer or whatever. It is called Jesus version religion, but just to point out to those that don't know that there is some talk about that today's name or word religion is not the same as it was in when the Old Testament and New Testament was happening. We are talking about two words, like we said before, with translation and what was the other one? Translation and
Transliteration.
transliteration. Kind of like another weird example is today gay mainly means homosexual or something like that. Olden days that actually just meant happy.
Yeah.
So it's just that in the Bible when you read that it might talk about religion, know which version it is. Is it today one that is man-made or the other one which is God? So there is a difference.
Yeah, exactly. like people kept pointing out to me, well, do you know what the word religion actually means? And yes, the word religion does just mean having faith in something supernatural. That is what the word definition is. But what the word definition is and what people have turned it into is two completely different things. Yes, do I have religion by the definition of the word? Sure. But in practicality, do I have religion based on what people have turned it into be? Absolutely not. That's the part I despise with everything. So, as said, we're going to go through the poem now. So the first line, what if I told you Jesus came to abolish religion? Again, we're talking about the man-made version of religion. Basically, people who have read the scripture but have kept it from the common folk and then turned it into something where they can control people. So, Marina, if you can read Matthew 23, 13 to 22.
13 to 22.
Yes, please.
Frauds. And this is the Message version, since we kind of had a talk about that in our episode about translation and transliteration.
Yeah.
So this is the Message version. Frauds. I've had it with you. You're hopeless, you religious scholars, you Pharisees. Fraud. Your lives are roadblocks to God's kingdom. Ouch. You refuse to enter and won't let anyone else in either. You're hopeless, you religious scholars. Yeah. And Pharisees. Fraud. You go halfway round the world to make a convert, but once you get him, you make him into a replica of yourself. Double damned. You're hopeless. What arrogant stupidity. You say if someone makes a promise with his fingers crossed, that's nothing. But if he swears with his hand on the Bible, that's serious. What ignorance. Does the leather on the Bible carry more weight than the skin on your hands? And what about this piece of trivia? If you shake hands on a promise, that's nothing. But if you raise your hand that God is your witness, that's serious. What ridiculous hair splitting. What difference does it make whether you shake hands or raise hands? A promise is a promise. What difference does it make if you make your promise inside or outside a house of worship? A promise is a promise. God is God is present. God is present, watching, and holding you to account regardless.
Thank you. In context, this is Jesus talking to the Pharisees and specifically the scholars at this point. And scholars back then were basically the equivalent to the modern day Catholic high priest and pope, pretty much. So basically, he's tearing apart the highest of the Bible scholars of that time because of how they are treating the scriptures. And the scriptures in that point is, of course, the Torah, the Jewish law, or Moses' law. Next one is, what if I told you voting Republican really wasn't his mission? What if I told you Republican doesn't automatically mean Christian? Now, I had to search this one up because, as I pointed out, many people, I don't speak politician. And, of course, Republican is a political word. So, Republican, and this is from the Cambridge Dictionary definition. Republican is a supporter of government by elected representatives of the people rather than government by a king or queen. Basically the opposite of what Bible teaches, because God is the highest and Jesus is king. And it also goes, and just because you call some people blind doesn't automatically give you vision.
May I comment on
that? Which part?
The blindness part.
Yeah, you also got something to read, but yeah.
That's the
Yeah, Matthew 15:14.
Okay. It's not the one I was thinking of. The one with just because you call some people blind doesn't automatically give you vision. It makes me think of one of these verses in the Bible I really love that I do not have on me right now, but that is roughly said, why are you focusing on trying to remove the splinter in your neighbor's or your brother's eye when you have a whole wood plank? And for me, it's like, we can all, like they say on social media and generally, you can always come with advice on how to fix other people's problems. But there's always
No.
there's always, there's always no, but you can't really find the answer to your own problems, man. That we are so good at pointing.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read?
Yes, Matthew 15, whole 14.
Yeah, it's going to be 13 and 14. The message takes them and makes them together.
Okie dokie.
Jesus shrugged it off. Every tree that wasn't planted by my Father in heaven will be pulled up by its roots. Forget them. They are blind men leading blind men. When a blind man leads a blind man, they both end up in the ditch. I really want to say that's why you have so stuck.
Modern term.
Sorry. Yeah. That was it.
That was longer than the piece I read, but fair enough. It brings the point in just fine.
Okay.
So, what it means by this when it says just because you call some people blind doesn't automatically give you vision. Basically, here is talking about pride. Just because you think you know something doesn't automatically mean you can lead other people. And as in Matthew 15:14 says, when a blind leads a blind, you end up in a ditch. Basically, you can't. Thanks for the like, by the way. I just saw it come in. Then you go, and it follows with, I mean, if religion is so great, why has it started so many wars? Most famous one is that one is, of course, the Catholic Crusades in the 14th century, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that one. Specifically against the Islamic people. Why does it build huge churches but fails to feed the poor? Again, we have so many examples of religions, Christianity included, building huge monuments, yet their people are dying on the street because the priests are so high up their horses.
Oh.
That was said the most politically correct way I could.
Or for the non-politically correct way, we're very good at building and focusing on the physical when, even though there is the physical to have space for people, it's become a problem because we stop focusing on being able to grab in people to help them come to the faith, or not even come to the faith, to help them out. I mean, like he says, that part, now I'm jumping a bit in the verse, with if Jesus came to the church, would you let him in? Well, people are always focused on building high, building bigger, being the most modern and the cheapest way and all that. But what about the ones that can't come to church? What about sitting out on the street and just singing with people so they know there's someone here that loves you, instead of them wandering around all alone?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the big problems when I hear this, it hits so much because I see it so much around us these days. We're building so much physical up and around, but we're not building with how many people there are, and we're not focusing on talking to the people and helping the people out now. I mean, church should be, of course, the size of the church is mainly focused on how many people are there, whether they're Christian or not, that they feel welcome there and that they can learn about what is in this weird book that no one will ever 100% understand because it's a book from God.
Yeah. Many years ago, I had a pastor who, in one of his services, which again, it's some of those things that just sticks with me. He's also my favorite pastor. He said that the building around us, the chairs we sit on, everything is point is, doesn't matter. We could be out in the park next to a building and preaching. We could be down in the city and preaching, as long as we are, what do you call it? As long as we're united, we're here together, Christians, non-Christians, listening to the same message, searching for Christ. Where we are has no meaning whatsoever. It doesn't matter if you are in the biggest church in the world or if you are in a tent on a field. Doesn't matter. As long as you're there, the Holy Spirit will be there. Christ will be there to find you.
Just as an example, a bit of a testimony, actually. I think
Yeah.
I've had breakdowns multiple times last week, and Tuesday night I was so tired of it. I did not know if I could keep on going. I'm not talking about some things. I'm just talking about if this part of my life I had to stop. The part I was focusing on that. So I was no other place but in our bathroom, by the sink, just standing there and just saying to God, if this is it, do that I understand what on earth I'm reading, what on earth I'm studying, so I can actually do this, I can pass, and I can continue this education, unless that this education is a mistake. And without me thinking about it, that was all the prayer was. And last night at 2 a.m, I suddenly realized I had just given him my paper. I understood what I had written on my reports and that, and basically everything that I prayed for, he had answered. I was there, what do you call it? It was in the bathroom. It wasn't in a church or anything like that. I was just standing there and saying, God, I feel helpless. Help.
Yeah. Next one would be is telling single moms God doesn't love them if they've ever had a divorce. But in the Old Testament, God actually called religious people whores. If you read Matthew 15:14 a different way, it actually he actually says about when people be sexual immoral and things like that, and then he actually just tears them apart right there. Religion might preach, religion might preach grace, but another thing they practice. Tend to ridicule God's people. They did it to John the Baptist. Again, we see that religion becomes hey, I'm putting myself on a pedestal because I'm better than everybody else. Yet Christ, who walked among us, was ridiculed more than anybody else, and he still stood firm. His disciples were ridiculed, persecuted. They still stood firm.
A comment on that?
Sure.
And just a thing, when Michael says that they put themselves higher than others, we're not just talking physical here, but a lot of people put themselves higher up because of knowledge and that. We are so bad at humbling ourselves. And both we experience it from other people, but also we ourselves sometimes can be really, really bad at being like, well, I've been in the kitchen for this many years, so I'm better than you. I've done that many, or going to a garage or workshop and they've had 25 experience, so they're better. And we're doing that thing, like comparisons to up, to build ourselves higher. And it can go from being someone in a workshop for 25 years to a priest that says because they've read the Bible and they've had that education in it, they know better than you just because you not misunderstand, but you interpret the Bible a different way than them. Or a mother saying that she knows better because she's a mum.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. It's very, because we're not perfect and no one knows everything and no one knows everything in that field. If we did, there would literally be the definition perfect experts or something, but we don't, because we never will have know the final things in that. Next. So with that, just the perspective of that, with building people up higher, building yourself up higher, it doesn't necessarily have to be that with a pope standing up physically. It's just that with how we present ourselves and our information.
Yeah. Continuing with that, and it says they can't fix their problems, and so they just mask it, not realizing religion is like spraying perfume on a casket. And again, it's that whole facade, as it says here. See, the problem with religion is it never gets to the core. We're not talking about a core and tree or something. We're talking about our core, the core. It's just behavior modifications like a long list of chores, which you also see in religion. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, pay this, then you might be able to get there. What a load of crap.
Which after some of the other verses that will come to, which ends up with, you only do that when you're with those people that have that requirement. When you get home, totally different. And I know that from a personal side, not with this, but due to my ADHD, something called masking, because I cannot be with some people because the way that you have to do this, you have to be like that, you talk like this, so I end up masking, and so the person I am when I'm with them is not the person I am when I'm alone or when I'm in my own home and that, which is just depressing and sad if you think about it.
Yeah. It also goes, like, let's dress up the outside, make it look nice and neat. But it's funny, that's what they used to do to mummies while the corpse rots underneath. And that's 100% archaeologically true. Mummies in Egypt were dressed up after they had been embalmed. Basically, what that means is that the decaying process for the body gets put on standby, or rather stopped. But they got dressed up in silk. They got buried in coffins that were dressed up, decorated like a treasure. Because, of course, in Egypt, the pharaohs were gods, basically. So that's what the reference is, that if you think that, okay, if I do this and this and this and this and this and blah, 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 you're going to be putting yourself on a pedestal because you are better, you are worthy. That ain't how faith works. And he goes, now I ain't judging. I'm just saying, quit putting on a fake look, because the problem if people only know that you're a Christian by Facebook. In short, what it means by that is, if people only know you're Christian by what you put in a bio or by what you yeah, but you don't live it, you ain't one. Christianity comes from inside, and you basically live it. I mean, in every other aspect of life, you know the logic's unworthy. It's like saying you play for the Lakers just because you bought a jersey. For the people who are not into sports, that basically means that a jersey is a specific type of t-shirt you can buy with your team's logo on or something. And it's the exact same type that they would actually wear on the field while playing.
Or another perspective for those that want that. Basically saying you're a cook because you bought a pot and an apron.
Yeah.
Or you're a mum because you bought a baby bed.
Yeah. You see, this was me too, but no one seemed to be onto me, acting like a church kid while addicted to pornography. See, Sunday I go to church, but Saturday getting faded, acting as if I was simply created to just have sex and get wasted. Now this one here, I'm going to be a little bit controversial because I'm going to be going after a specific type of people. And to be fair, I have nothing but love for those people. But I'm still going to call out the truth.
So wake up call.
Yeah. What he means by this is all the temptations of the flesh, getting drunk, having sex, getting high, getting absolutely shit-faced, as people also call it. A lot of that is what the Pride community is boasting all about. Hey, it's you that matters. You're the center. You are everything, and people have to obey you for what you're saying. Go out, have sex with whoever you want to, drink however much you want, take whatever drugs you want, so that you feel good. It is the temptations of the devil. Fall out. Now, the reason I'm saying I have nothing but love for those people is because I know people in that society. I know people there.
And we are, since we're not perfect, we've also ourselves been tempted to the different things.
Of course.
Just to make that clear too.
We're not perfect. We're flawed completely. But I'm just saying, but there's a reason that this hits so hard every single time, because it hits me as well personally. I see myself in this, and I'm like, shit, I'm horrible. I'm a bad person. But thanks to Jesus, I'm being better because I want to become better. But what society and especially the prayer community preaches is you don't have to be. You're perfect the way you are. Just go out and do it more. Keep doing it. Keep going. Keep going. That is you. And that's just wrong. It's not who you're meant to be. It's what the devil wants you to be. But guess what? He was defeated. He has no power over you, only what you give him. Thanks to Jesus.
I find this is also important to mention two ways when we're talking about the pride community. And as one is the woman actually came out talking about how she was considering having one of those operations to become a man. And where God spoke to her, and he actually gave her the specific name of, and I know that people will maybe be very after us about this, but about the specific name of that demonic power of homosexuality. And to think that he gave that for me is just such a clearance that this is not right. And like Michael says, with just be you and so on, how they're saying that, I personally was once a space where I thought I was becoming gay. I was becoming homosexual. And though thanks to my relationship with my mum, I could talk to her about it. And basically what she said to me has helped me know, okay, it is a part of being human that you will be attracted to the same sex at some point. However, it is not the fact that then you stand there. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't have met Michael, and then this would never have happened.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same temptation for about 5 minutes and it scared the daylights out of me.
But so, even though we can feel this thing, and it might be a day, it might be a week, a month, a half a year, 2 years, 3 years, we gotta remember that if our minds and bodies and feelings don't feel clear, stick to the Bible.
Yeah.
Stick to what it says. And it does say in the Bible, it never says in the Bible that you will not feel lustful, or if you're lustful or something like that, then you can just look away from this Bible. It never says that. It says when you choose to take your thoughts into action, cut your hand off or something like that. It says when you choose to put an action to your thoughts. And so thankfully, I talked to my mum about it, and that resulted in I stopped before I took any action of saying, okay, I'm gay, or okay, I'm going to look into this more, or something like that. And I was like, okay, this is just a period in my life. And all I remember was probably I had some time fighting those thoughts, but then it just went away.
Yeah.
And then since then, have I been attracted to women? Yeah, they're God's creation, they're beautiful, and so on. But at the same time, I love men, I love my husband and that. So it's that really important thing, and it's also really important with who you talk to about the things.
Yeah.
I mean, had I talked to any of my friends about it, it would be a totally different story, and I'd probably think I was homosexual. And that's what I also believe one of the reasons why that the pride community is so big with social media is because there's less and less people to talk to who has the right insight or the more clear insights in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a bit partly off topic.
Next one. See, I spent my whole life building this facade of neatness. Basically, give me, 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 give me. But now that I know Jesus, I boast in my weakness. I don't have to hide my failures. Because if grace is water, then the church should be an ocean. It's not a museum for good people. It's a hospital for the broken. And frankly, the last one here, it's not a museum for good people. It's a hospital for the broken. Every time I mention that specific line to a church, I get my ass handed to me. Last time I did it, I had to leave. And that was recently.
A funny comment on that one too is I at one point went to a church where I was really close and getting depression because I was in that church. So I knew from there on I shouldn't be there anymore because then it's not fulfilling me spiritually. And then that thing with it's not a museum for good people, it's a hospital for the broken. I was like, have you ever thought about the hospital take care of so many patients, both those that are inside the hospital and those that are coming to the hospital and been to the hospital, and then all those experts and doctors and all these equipment. There's so many things going on. And yet they have control. They might not have the best control, which we know with the nurses going under stress and everything, but they do have some control. And then when Michael has experienced it, but I've experienced myself talking to people and saying, that church should be like a hospital. It's not about how big the hospital is, because the best hospitals are those that's in a way overfilling with sick people, because it's showing that they're doing what they're supposed to do instead of it being half empty but loads of space in that. And it was like their answer to me was, it's impossible for the church to be like that because that's way too many people to deal with. And I was like, if the hospital can be controlled by people to help these many people physically sick, then the church, the church should be like a hospital for mental sicknesses and that and so on, where there's all that, yeah, whether there's space, but that organization and that, and then they can meet everyone's what do you call it, needs and that. And that's when we go wrong, when we can't do that.
Yeah. Next one, which means I don't have to hide my failure. I don't have to hide my sin because it doesn't depend on me. It depends on him. So because when I was God's enemy and certainly not a fan, he looked down on me, looked down and said, I want that man. And again, that's why we come back to that Christianity is God searching for us. Me and Mariana, you out there, God is searching for every single one. But he needs you to open that door. He's standing out there knocking all day, every day. He just needs you to open it.
And that, because it doesn't depend on me, it depends on him. I find it's a two-way one. One of it is God saying, I want you right now, the one looking at the screen, but because I'm holy, you can't be close to me, so I need to send my son. But the other version of it is Jesus with it, when it says it doesn't depend on me, it depends on him. Because no matter how much I try to forgive myself and ask God for forgiveness and try to stay away from sin, I'm still going to do it because I'm human. But at the same time as that, none of that matters if Jesus did not take the choice to go through with being killed and so on. That's the thing. It depends on him. It doesn't depend on whatever I am. I'm already forgiven. God already knows the millions of things I'm going to do of stupidity in that. But I'm already forgiven because Jesus, it depended on him. It depends on him. And his was already that he said, hey, it's all on me, girl. We love you. Come to us. It's all on us.
Which is why Jesus hated religion and for it he called them fools. Don't you see it's so much better than just following some rules? I refer back to Matthew 15:14. Now let me clarify, and I'm also going to say this from my part as well. I love the church, I love the Bible, and yes, I believe in sin. Personally, me too. But if Jesus came to a church, would they actually let him in? Personally, I believe most churches would turn him away because he's not going to preach what people or what churches want him to preach. Like I was asked recently on a live I did with a friend, if Jesus came to bring peace to us, to earth. No, he didn't. He came to save us. But in order to save us, there is some bad things that happens because judgment needs to be done. And the people who won't turn, who won't repent and see the truth, there is consequences. And they're not nice. See, remember he was called a glutton and a drunken.
Before you keep on reading, can I comment?
Did you have that one?
Yes,
Sorry.
I brought it up twice.
Sorry, I didn't see it.
I was wondering if you heard it.
Sure. No, I didn't see it.
But don't you see so much better than just following some rules? Now, personally, I'm one that I'm very black and white with rules, because when you not bend the rules in a negative way, but when there's so many different ways of reading it, it can become so difficult. I don't know where I have people, and especially like social cues, and that is so difficult. And so this was when, don't you see so much better than just following some rules? I love that how they define the Bible as the living book, because every time pretty much you read it, you're in a new place in your life, and then the words you might have read a million times, and I say this from a personal experience, suddenly tells you something totally different. as someone that's been told the Bible my whole childhood, it's basically like a children's bedtime story for me. So I remember it clearly in that way. But as an adult and reading it from because I've learned different things, I've learned more and different perspectives, and I've grown more mature in time than that. Then it became so different. So when the rules of the Bible, like the Ten Commandments or guidelines, if you wish, with the Ten Commandments, and then when Jesus says the two commandments he has for the new covenant, then don't you see so much better than just following some rules? For me, it's like it's also important to remember to go in and read the things again and again because you're gonna understand from different perspectives, and then it's not just I shouldn't, I shouldn't, I should. Then it's like, well, with this at that point I shouldn't, but now I might, and so on.
Yeah. See, remember he was called a glutton and a drunkard by religious men, but the Son of God never supported self-righteousness, not now, not then. What he means by self-righteousness is, again, you're lifting yourself up on a pedestal. You're saying, hey, I've done so well, I have been so good, look at me, I'm better than them. That ain't how it works. See, Jesus came down as a servant. On the evening of the Last Supper, he was washing the feet of the disciples. Some of them said, Master, no. Why would you wash our feet? He says, and this is loosely quoted, if I don't serve, how can you serve? What he means by that is because he came down here to serve us, to save us. He leads by example. So if he doesn't do it, how can we? Which is why when people tell me, well, don't you follow religion? No, I follow Jesus because he led by example. When we call ourselves followers of Christ, we don't say that we follow a list of rules. No, we don't. I don't care about those. Mostly. What I do is that I follow the example of the man, the God, who risked everything for me, for my wife, for my friends, for my family, for everybody. He risked everything to serve us because he wants to save us. If that ain't worth following, I don't know what it is. Now back to the point. I love everything. I keep missing
I've
that
noticed.
one.
Can you go back up?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm also here. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, I'm not. Oh, well, I wasn't allowed to say that. I'm sorry.
According to who?
We looked into what it actually means.
I didn't. Well, I did, but
okay.
either way.
I have one from home and nothing good. Back to what Michael was saying with this no self-righteousness. It made me really think of the Bible verse where Jesus is talking about prayer. And he talks about that with the ones that stands on the building corners and shout out that they've been praying, they've been fasting and so on. Where he says that God has given them their praying, blessing, whatever you call it, their reward, that's what you call it, their reward already. Instead, go into somewhere quiet and pray where it's only between you and God. Instead, when you fast, don't let anyone know. Still wash your face and don't let anyone know. And for me, there's also a lot these days where we're being so self-righteous with this is maybe a bit of an attack on people, and that's because I'm not really sure myself if it's right or wrong. But that is, we have this International Prayer Week around here. And even though I find it's really good motivation to help people to pray, at the same time for me, it's like it's going against what I understand should be prayer, isn't it? Lifting it up more than that. So it's one of those back to the rules that it's so much better to just follow some rules. It is that difficulty with, well, we're not supposed to be self-righteous and say, hey, I've been praying for this person for the last 5 years and now something happened. Look at me, I did that. Compared to that with sitting in a corner just thinking, God, please help them, or something. It can be very, very difficult, I find, that line. But that would not to point self-righteousness. I just got that image from the Bible of that would, compared to standing at a building corner and shouting, hey, I've been praying for a week, I've been fasting for a week, look what I've done. I mean, that's what Jesus literally says in the Bible, that instead you should go into a closed room where it's only between you and God.
Yeah. By that, I'd like you to read Luke.
Oh, we're going to Luke
23.
Wait, 23.
Yeah.
No, that one. You can choose it. Yeah, 23, 34, 44 to 46.
No, 23, verse 34, and then move on to 44, 46.
That's what it says.
Okay.
Jesus prayed, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Dividing up his clothes, they threw dice for them. The people stood there staring at Jesus, and the ringleaders made faces, taunting. He saved others. Let's see him save himself. The Messiah of God, ha! The chosen one, ha! By now it was noon. The whole earth became dark, the darkness lasting 3 hours, a total blackout. The temple curtain split right down the middle. Jesus called loudly, Father, I place my life in your hands. Then he breathed his last. Oh, I couldn't hold in those tears.
That's fine.
That's fine.
The first one, 34, is for you're going to meet this out there as a Christian. Like I said, it was called drunken and glutton by religious men. Yeah, we're also going to be called a lot of things. But on the cross, after he'd been tortured, when he was hanging there, shortly before he passed, he said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Important thing for everybody watching this is to remember, when people do the same to you, repeat it. Have the love and say, Father, forgive them because they're blind, they're ignorant, they don't know what they're doing. They're doing it because they have given into the temptation of the flesh, Satan.
And a point there, I've experienced that myself, where when I've been working, that you of course don't always work in a place where people are Christians, or that faith is welcome, or religion in itself is not welcome, the modern and the old religion in that sense. And there's sometimes I got also to personally remind myself when I talk to people about Jesus and about the proof, physical proof we have now compared to what the Bible says, and that some people just don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Some people are just not ready for it. And some people will also show that in a very aggressive physical or vocal way. And I've experienced that where my physical body, my worldly body has been like, fight back, give more of all your knowledge and all the links and all the pictures and proof you have. But then part of me is like, stop up. If they say anything bad, forgive them powerfully, no matter what they do. And it is really a testing of me too then, because they're trying to push my buttons, or if they're not there, they're just saying, I don't care what you think, you're stupid with your thoughts, or whatever thought they have. And we've got to remember that there will come those things a lot. But am I going to try to show the thing? Or let God do his work if he feels that that's time now, since he knows best, and just say, okay, God will deal with them. I shouldn't do more. Also, I'm only human. I can't say the perfect things, especially not if I don't feel the Holy Spirit's leading me with word. But so that's also a really important thing, is when people talk to you or act towards you. It can also be people just walking into you on the subway, or they're just being rude to you when you're going shopping. That just that thought with, we don't know everything going on. I forgive them that because they're probably having a bad day or they're not doing well or something like that. So just a reminder there that forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Now, given that my computer is dying, I'm going to go through the last part of it a little bit faster, but we're also pretty much there. Now, back to the point, one thing is vital to mention, how Jesus and religion are on opposite spectrums. See, one is the work of God, but one is a man-made invention. See, one is the cure, but the other is the infection. See, because religion says do, Jesus says done. Religion says slave. Jesus says son. Religion puts you in bondage while Jesus sets you free. Religion makes you blind, but Jesus makes you see. And that's why religion and Jesus are two different clans. Religion is man searching for God.
Yeah, claims.
Clans.
Claims as in groups.
Yeah, clan.
Claim. You pronounce it claims.
No, clan.
Clan, as long as you understand it.
Religion is man searching for God. Christianity is God searching for man, which is why salvation is freely mine and forgiveness is my own, not based on my merits, but Jesus' obedience alone.
First.
Yeah.
And that again, back to how he said that it's not about what I did, but what Jesus did. That is not based on how many times I bow down to God because I swore, or how many times I go and kill a goat and sacrifice or anything. It's all because Jesus' obedience to God, that he needed to go through it and die on the cross, that our things could be forgiven. That's the only thing. It's only 100% because Jesus was obedient. Yeah. So, man, I'm glad he was.
Because he took the crown of thorns and the blood dripped down his face. He took what we all deserve. Guess that's why you call it grace. And while being murdered, he yelled, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Because when he was dangling on the cross, he was thinking of you. And he absorbed all of our sins and buried in a tomb, which is why kneeling at the cross says, come on, there's room. So for religion, no, I hate it. In fact, I literally resent it. Because when Jesus said, it is finished, I believed he meant it. Now, for me, yes, Jesus didn't say it is finished before he died. He said, now I pass my spirit to you, God. Borderline the same thing. What that means is that when he died, he went to death, said, death, you have no more power. I beat you. He rose 3 days later to prove death had no more power over him. Then he spent 40 days with his disciples preaching, giving them our task before ascending, so that his disciples would know he is the living God. And death has no hold over him. And whoever follows him, like it says in John, whoever follows Jesus, whoever believes in Jesus, shall not perish, but have everlasting life. That is the gift of salvation that he gives to you, to us, for what he went through. That is Christianity as a faith. That is not religion. Religion is chores you have to do. And that's basically the same for all religions. Christian religion, Islamic, Buddhism, Hinduism, Norse. I can keep going. They all have a list of things you have to do. And if you don't complete that list, and in some other cases, if you don't pay, you're screwed. Because you have to earn your way to salvation. But what Jesus did, what God did, was take all of our punishment and said, hey, I took them on me. If you believe in me, I grant you the gift of salvation. If that ain't the most amazing thing you could ever receive, I don't know where your head's at.
And for me, also this also clearly shows how we gotta watch out with going to churches, because even though something's called a church, classified as a church, like our own also, like right now, this, does not mean that churches do I'm supposed to, or that's the right thing. And there you gotta really feel, okay, well, if this is basically making me feel like I'm being shut down by everyone, then it's not the right place thing. So for me, church is that thing where it's kind of like school. You have to feel out because some schools are just not right for you. Some churches are just not right. And it's not following what the definition of this thing is. What is this thing supposed to help me with? Is it doing it? Nope. Then leave it. Why would you be in a place that's not helping you? That's just a waste of time. We literally have limited time on this earth physically. Then how Why are we wasting time on things that make no sense? And yes, we have sinned. Yes, we've done stupid things in that. But one thing we have of own choice is, are we going to try and make it better? Yeah, you might fall back a bit. You might do it every so often. It might take you 50 years. It might take you 10 months. But your choice is, are you going to work on it? And the steps doesn't have to be big also. God knows you sinned. Because as soon as we have basically a conscious as children, we sin. We might not have understood it yet 100%, but we have sinned since we were small because we're humans. We can't help it. So when one thinks that, okay, for me to come to Jesus, and this, guys, is very important, for me to come to Jesus, I need to be perfect. For me to come to God, I need to not do this, not do that, get that away, remove that, be like that, do like that, have that routine, have that way of being in that. That is not at all what it is. Jesus says literally, come to me, all you who have burdens, all you who are tired, who are weak, who are sick. I think that sums up literally every human being on this earth.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, we gotta stop putting the rules out, our human rules out, for what we do to come to Jesus. That we got to burn something as a sacrifice, or we got to first go and do this or do that and that. No. Jesus wants you imperfect, because the only way you can be perfect is by being with him. Not trying to go to him, but being with him.
And I hope you're done, because I gotta have to cut you off now.
Yeah, it's 56 past.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty much what I wanted to say there.
So at the end of all this, just go to Jesus. And thank you so much for watching. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.